Today I'm going to go for a great way of training the handstand push-up. It's probably the most difficult way of training it. So what it means for most people is that they're going to have to drop back with the progressions they're working on to an easier version so they can do this technique. You can do it in a push-up, so just a standard push-up, and it's just the bottom movement up. So we want to go from like a dead position. So it's a bit like a deadlift. There's no energy, there's stretch reflex, there's no momentum. You're just dead still, and then you push up to your top position to open all the way up. So from a push-up, it'll look like this. And then probably the ultimate is the dead press. So when you're laying on your front and then you push straight up into a handstand. Now, ideally, this would be done with a straight body, no bending through the knees, no arching. I can't do that yet. I can do a straight body position, but there's some bending, some squirming, some movement in the legs. But it's that dead press. So when we can use that through any of the progressions, and I'm going to take you through the progressions today. Now, why do we want to train it like this? So one, it's the hardest variation. So obviously the stimulus we're going to get from that, it's like using weighted chin-ups type effect. So we're taking ourselves beyond our current limit. So that's obviously going to help us to, then when we do the full movement, it's actually going to feel easier. So if you can do a dead press handstand push-up, your normal handstand push-ups are going to feel much easier and much stronger. Functionally, how we're going to use it. So if I want to get up onto, say, these canes, I don't need to use it so much. I'll use a bit of momentum to get up as well in a slight bent arm position, but I'm coming from the bottom up. If I want to get onto these higher canes, or if I want to press out the rings and push up to a handstand position, I'm more or less going from a dead position and then pushing up. You always probably have a little bit of momentum helping you out, but to train it with a dead press, so you've got no momentum, will then obviously make it much easier when you use a little bit of momentum. So where do we want to start? So I'm just going to go through the different variations, and then I recommend you start with the easiest version and keep working up. So we've got the push-up. So I'm just laying dead on the floor, and then I'm going to push up from that position to the top of the push-up. Now, obviously, we could use power. We could come up really fast, or we could come up slowly. That's up to you. You're just going to have to work it out in terms of how much time under tension you want per repetition. A slower time under tension, so a slower tempo, means that you don't have to do so many repetitions. Once we've got the push-up, we could go to a pike push-up. So exactly the same thing. We're starting in that headstand position, but with our feet still on the floor, and we're in that down dog type position. So pike tips, and I'm going to push up from there into an open shoulder position. Next variation was just like a normal handstand push-up. So from a headstand, with this one, you want to make sure that you transfer lots of weight into the hands before you start to push. With a headstand, a lot of people put way too much in the weight in the head. So then when they go to push through the hands and the shoulders, it's not like preloaded. So you want to slowly increase that, decrease the weight out of the head, and then push up there into your full handstand. And from there, we can make it harder. We could go to a deficit. So I'm going to have collarbone on the box, and then I'm going to push all the way up to there. Now that takes us up to obviously the standard handstand push-up variations. Now the longer I pause at the bottom before I push up, the harder the movement's going to be. So a true dead press, you're going to be wanting to hold there for like 3 or 4 seconds with no movement. So 2 ways I can make this slightly easier. I could use a little bit of momentum. So as soon as I go into the movement, I start pushing, and or I go from a tuck position to a straight position. So I get a little bit of a kip like they use in CrossFit handstand push-ups. But ideally we'll be aiming for a 3 or 4 second pause, no movement, no momentum, body stays straight the whole time, and then push nice and slow and controlled up to your handstand. Remember, we're purposely trying to make it really hard. So like I say, I think you're going to have to back off with this one and drop back to an easier version. I'll be interested to hear if that's the facts, or whether you can actually still do your same level. So if you're working handstand push-ups at the moment, like full handstand push-ups, can you do this dead press off the floor of a standard handstand push-up? I'll be interested to know. Stick it down in the comments or ask any questions. Thumbs up and subscribe would be appreciated. And I'll speak to you next time. Thanks, guys.